Greetings. This is ENSNewsii with the Weekender for the weekend of November 8th, 2022. Today is the big day, Election Day for the midterm voting election period. This year, we are looking at an excellent turnout for the United States in voting. Now, as of today, prior to 7 a.m., more than 42 million Americans turned out across the nation to vote their choice, their voice, and to send whomever it is that they choose to represent their views in their states and in Washington, D.C. Before going any further into the statistics on the outturns for the turnout for each state, we have a celebration, and that is for Texas. The state of Texas turned out just so many more people than probably any state, anyone anticipated, and more than any other state in the United States. Texas voters turned out to the early voting polls to the number of 5,492,902 voters. Now that's a whopping turnout. Now there are other states that have had some pretty close in margin numbers. In fact, Florida is one of the states that had a massive voter turnout. There were 4,788 voters in Florida. And in, let's say, third place was Arkansas with 3,939 voters. And in fourth place is California with 3,880 voters. And fifth place would be Georgia. Georgia turned out more than 2,500,000 voters to the midterm early voting election. And then in other states, there was New York with 1.3 million, Pennsylvania with 1.6 million, North Carolina with 2.1 million, South Carolina 1.2 million, Ohio turned out 1.5 million, Washington State turned out 1.5 million, Arizona voters came out with 1.4 million votes, Illinois turned out 1.1 million votes, and Colorado State turned out 1.2 million voters. Now, looking at the battleground states, Arizona turned out 1.5 million voters. Pennsylvania turned out 1.6 million voters. Ohio, 1.5 million. Nevada, 615,000 voters. And in Georgia, as we stated before, 2.5 million. Wisconsin, 697,000. And Michigan, 1.3 million voters turned out in the early voting period, which is for most U.S. states, ended last week. The remaining 38 states, including early voter turnout for Washington, D.C., reached approximately 95,000 voters for Washington, D.C., and others reached from 500,000 to 600,000, more than 600,000 voters turning out to the polls in the early voting session.